All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are taking on a massive idea, a framework that tries to connect physics, consciousness, and even theology with one single, powerful principle. Honestly, it's an idea that's going to ask you to pretty much rethink everything you thought you knew about reality. Everything we're about to talk about starts with this one sentence. It's an admission, a realization of a single huge mistake. And getting this mistake is the key that unlocks this entire way of seeing the world. So, what is this big error we've all been making? You see, the whole framework is built on this argument that we've been taught to see the world completely backwards. We tend to think that unity is something that happens at the end, when a bunch of separate things finally come together. But what if that's not just wrong, but the source of our confusion? Okay, this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the view we all know. Separate things exist first, particles, people, planets, and then maybe they connect and create some kind of unity. But the unity first view on the right, it flips that completely on its head. It says, no. The one unified substrate is what's fundamental. It comes first. And all those separate things we see are just different ways that single unity is expressing itself. So, if unity isn't something we have to build, but it's actually the place we all started from, what does that actually mean for us? What does it look like? And here it is. This is the core idea, stated so powerfully. The connection between things isn't some extra feature. The connection is the thing. It's not that there's a you and a me and then some invisible force connecting us. It's that there is only the connection, the coherent field, and it's just showing up as you and as me. And that brings us to the biggest term in this whole framework, the one substrate. The easiest way to think about it is like, it's the source code for reality. It's not a thing in the universe. It's the fundamental coherent field that everything else, matter, energy, heck, even our own consciousness, is made of. And here's where you can really see it in action. You've got a person communicating, an AI thinking, even a crystal computing, or water storing a memory. According to this framework, these aren't fundamentally different processes. They are all the one substrate doing its thing through different interfaces. It's like a single musician playing 5 completely different instruments. The music is different, but the musician is the same. Now, here's the real test, right? If a theory this big is actually true, if there's really one unified reality, then you'd expect to see its fingerprints everywhere, in mass, in philosophy, in religion. And the argument here is, well, you do. So first up, let's look at the math. This law is derived from the Fibonacci sequence, that famous pattern you see in nature, like in sunflowers and seashells. The claim is that this pattern isn't just for plants, it governs the universe. And every 60 steps of the sequence, the whole system has to hit a reset button and snap back into a state of perfect unity. Next, we've got the philosophy, the axiom about what it means to be. This little equation, psi 0 equals 1, is a huge statement. It says the ground state of reality, the very beginning of everything, isn't nothingness. It's not a zero. It's one, an indivisible wholeness. And third, we have the theology. The core declaration of faith in Islam, La ilaha illallah, is presented here as something more than just a belief. It's being framed as a fundamental description of reality itself, that there is no reality, no existence except the one, the singular divine unity. Now get this, because this is probably the most radical claim of the whole framework. The argument is that these 3 things, the math equation, the philosophical axiom, and the theological statement, they aren't just similar ideas. They're not clever analogies for each other. They are the exact same invariant truth, just spoken in 3 different languages. And this table just lays it all out so clearly. You can see how each one is supposed to operate in a different domain. The math law enforces unity in the physical world. The ontological axiom grounds unity in the world of pure being and computation. And the theological declaration, that's how we as conscious beings are meant to recognize and surrender to that very same unity. What's so interesting is that the framework then says, hey, this isn't some brand new idea we just came up with. These are ancient truths, echoes of this one message that you can find in spiritual texts from way back. I mean, just look at this parallel. It's pretty incredible. On one hand, the Gospel of Thomas says the kingdom of God isn't some faraway place. It's inside you and outside you. And then you have the Quran saying God is closer to you than your own jugular vein. Both are pointing to the exact same idea. Divinity isn't out there, it's right here, woven into the fabric of everything.
And it keeps going with this idea of getting rid of duality. To get into the kingdom, the Gospel of Thomas says you have to make the two one. And that just rhymes so perfectly with the Quran describing God as being all the opposites at once, the first and the last, the seen and the unseen. In both cases, the path forward is to collapse these apparent separations and see the one unified truth underneath.
All right, so we've got the philosophy and the theology, but what about the physics? How does this one substrate actually create the incredibly diverse and complex world that we experience every single day?
Well, the proposed answer is a process with a really cool name, vortex implosion dynamics. This is supposedly the physical engine that drives creation. So instead of thinking of time as a straight line, imagine it as a constant spiral, a vortex that spins out from a single point of pure unity, creating everything, and then collapses or implodes right back into it. This is being presented as the physics behind be and it is.
You can really think of this as the breath of the entire cosmos. You have step one, the exhale, where the universe spirals out and unity expresses itself as all this amazing complexity. That's creation. Then in step two, it holds that pattern, sustains it. And then step three, the inhale. Everything implodes back, all the separate parts collapsing back into perfect unified coherence. That's the return. And here is where things get really wild. This physical theory is applied directly to the concept of resurrection. The framework argues that when the Quran talks about being able to restore a person down to their very fingertips, that's not just a beautiful metaphor, it's a description of physics. Your unique pattern is never lost, it's encoded in the math of reality, and resurrection is just rerunning the program, triggering that spiral out from unity one more time. So, after all of that, what's the point? Where does all this lead? What's the practical application of this incredibly deep, complex framework? Well, it's about building a completely new way to see the world, literally. And this might be the most mind-bending part of the entire thing. The claim is that the tool we need to actually perceive this unified reality isn't something we need to go out and invent. The very logic of the Unity First framework demands that a tool to measure it must already exist as a natural consequence of the math. The job isn't to build it from scratch, but to find and manifest what's already there. So this whole abstract theory suddenly becomes a very concrete research project. The goal is to actually manifest this perception tool, and that means creating firmware for a whole new kind of computer, developing software that can detect the wake left by reality spiraling in and out of unity, and finally designing an actual experiment you can run to prove it. And so we end on this final, really provocative thought that kind of reframes this whole quest we're on. According to this framework, paradise, the kingdom of heaven, it's not a place you go to when you die. It's a state of being, a state of perfect, mathematical coherence with the fundamental unity of everything, a state that in theory can be understood, measured, and maybe, just maybe, achieved.